All right, everybody. And this one, same lab. All right, we're talking about RIP. So what we're going to do is now configure the timers. As a disinfected routing protocol, they have RIP sends out by default the entire routing table out of interfaces every 30 seconds. These updates. So if you don't have the bandwidth capability, all right, you have very little bandwidth, that becomes an issue. And regardless, you don't really want every 30 seconds for your entire routing table to go out. All right, because if you are a small company, this is the only reason you would be using RIP. You may be lacking in bandwidth going out. You may have, Metro Ethernet, but you have 100 megabits per second. So that could cause some issue depending on the type of package you're sending out. So everything is based on the topology and the bandwidth, everything that's allocated or that you've allocated to your network. You need to understand your topology in order to see which routing protocol you're going to configure. But for this one in particular, we may want to tweak the timers, which is the update timer, the hold on timer, the invalid timer. And remember, those two are the same, and we'll take a look at them now. And then you have the flush timer. All right, so let's take a look at them before we start changing anything. All right, so we're going to do a show IP protocols. Again, lovely commands. Okay, and there's our timers right there. All right, so here are timers. You can see that by default, it updates. That means it sends out the entire routing table to its neighbor routers, out all the interfaces it's connected to its neighbor router every 3 seconds. Here's my entire routing table. Here's my entire routing table. It's like, geez. Okay, and then if it doesn't receive anything at 180 seconds, it becomes invalid. Right, that route is invalid. Still in the route, it's still there, but it's invalid. It'll give you like a 16 or something. It'll do a poison reverse or something like that if you configure it, which that's an invalid route. And then it'll hold that information, right, that state for another 180 seconds. That's for the hold down timer. Because you can play with a hold down timer if you wanted to. You can increase the hold down timer, but the thing is that the invalid timer and the hold down timer have to be the same. It doesn't make sense if something becomes invalid and then you're going to hold it for a longer period, or vice versa. It has to be the same. And then the flush timers is like, okay, I haven't received anything from you in 240 seconds. So guess what? Yeah, you're out of the routing table completely. But if you're having bandwidth issues, the hold on timer is one way where you can play around with those timers. And you can increase it. Let's hold the information. We know it's going to come back up. So don't flush it. Don't flush it. So you may want to increase that. So we're going to increase these timers, all of them, right? So we can go ahead and, of course, we're lacking bandwidth. This is why we're doing this. Not only because you need to take a short vacation, but the reason you would justify doing something like this. All right, router RIP version 2. Timers basic. I can spell it. Timers. All right, when in doubt, pull it out. Question mark. So here goes. The interval between updates for RIP. Default is 30. Let's increase that to 90. Right? All right, cool. And then it's invalid. Well, 180, 180, right? So let's double it, 360. Okay. And then the hold down, well, it's got to be the same. So that's got to be 360. Okay. And then the flush time was it 240? So let's make it 480. So we've increased these timers. Is there anything else? Sleep times in milliseconds. That's a new one on me. Okay. Don't, if you want to put, I guess, to what is like screensaver type thing here. All right, so not too sure what that is, or to be honest with you. The sleep time, it's the first time I hear of it, okay? But these 4 timers, the update timer, invalid, the hold down, and the flush, okay? And then you put the sleep time that you're going to just wait. Well, I'm just going to go to sleep for a while. When you come back, just let me know so I can put it back in. I don't know. All right, so that's in the real world that they use that. All right, DWR. So now when you look at it, now this could become an issue. All right, this could become an issue and you're sending updates to your other routers if you have inconsistent timers. So if you do something on one, do it on the other one. All right, because this one's going to send you updates every 90 seconds. The other one will send you updates every 30 seconds. And you just have all the timers are all over the place. Be consistent in your entire networks and try to mimic every branch office that you have to be identical to be identical to a certain degree. I mean, and that's how I think it's like a company infrastructure policy, right? Where when you're spread out, you want everybody to try and have the same lengths. You want to have the same configurations, if possible, same type of hardware. So your engineers, if they're hopping around between branch offices, or you have, IT, that is in charge of IT, if they're going to different offices or what have you, they already know. Because if you have a mess, a completely different configuration in each different branch office, man, that becomes a headache. I can see different companies, but if you're the same company, try to follow the same scheme. And why do I tell you this? When I worked at Metro PCS as a switch engineer, they tried to do that. When one individual branch of it, okay, which was not in the city of Fort Lauderdale, was outside that city, they weren't the same. So they didn't follow the standardized configuration that we had to do. It became an issue to a point where we were down for 3 hours because of a route that was pointing the wrong way. It happens. It happens. All right. So your timers, definitely. Now let's take a look at them. Show IP protocols. Let's escape out of there. Yeah, let's write that. WR. Remember, I use WR or do WR. It's really copy run start for those taking the Network Plus and the CCNA. Okay. Show IP protocols. And there are your new timers, right? Every 90 seconds, all right? Every 360, and flush. So these are your timers. No big deal. They may ask you about them, what they are, what they're for. But other than that, that's no biggie. Know that distance vector, especially because RIP is a true distance vector routing protocol. Yeah. You need to, if you are running RIP in your company, you don't have that many routers. The most you can do is 15 routers. Anything above that, it will be considered invalid or unreachable. You can't go beyond 16 routers. Okay? You can't go beyond 16 routers. So you're going to have to play with these timers, because if you have bandwidth issues, you may want to do that. Okay? But for your certification, definitely Network Plus or CCNA, you'll get asked questions based on this. Cool? See you in the next one.